Israeli Defense Forces reveal video of mosque. Bombs, rockets and explosives found.
I want you to understand, a mosque in the area of Zaitun has been used as a factory for the production of weapons. Soldiers entered the mosque and conducted a search. In addition to this tunnel shaft, the soldiers went further below and discovered a workshop for making rockets.
Houthi forces use a helicopter to take over a cargo ship on the high seas. Explosive new twist in Israel's war on Hamas. That's our top focus on India First. The Israeli Defense Forces say for the Hamas, no place is sacrosanct. Not hospitals, not schools, not homes, not even a holy mosque. Even a mosque was used to make and store rockets. They've revealed images. And the images we're just about to show you. Houthi forces use a military helicopter, a Russian military cargo helicopter, to board a ship and take control. A military helicopter used to board a civilian cargo ship which Iran-backed forces claim was owned by Israel, a charge denied by Jerusalem. Houthi forces say the crew and the ship will be released only when a ceasefire is declared. And a big story that's coming up on India First, a possible road to a ceasefire and release of some hostages. I'm Gaurav Sawant. We'll get you all the latest, but first, as always, the headlines on India First. 41 workers remain trapped in the Uttarkashi tunnel for the 10th day. Vertical drilling operations begin. India today accesses the first images of workers trapped inside. Prime Minister Narendra Modi's meeting the Indian team after their World Cup loss triggers a massive political meltdown. Rahul Gandhi slams the Prime Minister. BJP hits back, calls interaction between the Prime Minister and the cricketers as an example of the Prime Minister's leadership. Congress party announces 7 guarantees in its manifesto for poll-bound Rajasthan. Chief Minister Ashok Gehlot promises a caste survey if voted back to power. Supreme Court pulls up the Punjab government over failure to curb farm fires, directs the Bhagwant Mann government to stop giving MSP benefits to stubble burning violators. Centre raises the red flag over sudden spurt in deepfake videos. IT Ministry to hold a key meeting on combating deepfake dangers on the 24th of November. The Israeli Defense Forces have released a video claiming Hamas terrorists desecrated a mosque using the mosque premises to make and store rockets to target Tel Aviv, Jerusalem, Ashkelon, Sderot and other parts of Israel. The Israeli Defense Forces claim that the Gaza City mosque at Zelen was a weapons manufacturing laboratory and a storage facility. Israeli Defense Forces spokesperson Rear Admiral Daniel Hagari claimed that IDF launched an unmanned aerial vehicle and after scouting the general area around the mosque premises, the UAV dived down into a tunnel shaft of this Gaza mosque. The UAV then relayed back images of a weapons manufacturing, modification and storage facility inside the mosque. Israeli Defense Forces have since released images shot by the drone and subsequently by ground forces that entered the shaft after removing Hamas forces that were deployed in this area. Let me get you more in this report.
הלוחמים מחטיבה 188
I want you to understand, a mosque in the area of Zaitun has been used as a factory for the production of weapons. Soldiers entered the mosque and conducted a search. Working in cooperation with soldiers from the Yahalom unit, and after the forces checked that there were no traps, they discovered a tunnel shaft. In addition to this tunnel shaft, the soldiers went further below and discovered a workshop for making rockets.
ושם מגלים סדנה לייצור רקטות.
And news just coming in, this could be good news both for Israel and for the people living in the Gaza Strip. A hostage deal could be finalized in the next several hours. According to senior Israeli officials, there is a real possibility, a strong possibility that details of a hostage deal will be finalized in the coming hours. Now, what is the information that is available at this stage? The conversation is, and there is, last minute negotiations are still underway, but there is forward movement. At least 80 hostages. Remember, there are more than 240 in Gaza. At least 80 hostages, mainly children and their mothers. Children, mothers, and some elderly could be released if Israel agrees to a 4-day-long ceasefire all across the Gaza Strip. So the conversation is each day, at least 20 may be released. But it's not just a 4-day-long ceasefire. 150 Palestinian prisoners in various Israeli prisons will also have to be released, and a list is being shared. Mostly the prisoners from Gaza and Israeli prison are also women and by and large teenagers. That's the information that is emerging as of now. Now, Turkey's President Erdogan said on Tuesday that his foreign minister and the intelligence chief of Turkey were working in very close coordination with authorities in Qatar to ensure the release of hostages held by Hamas, and it could happen very soon.
Rehinelerin iadesiyle ilgili görüşmeler.
Right now, talks regarding the return of hostages are continuing. Both my foreign minister and my national intelligence organization chief are continuing the process with a joint effort with Qatar. Our hope is that we reach an outcome on the exchange of these hostages as soon as possible. We are in constant communication, and our expectation is to get positive results from this.
And a week before the 15th anniversary of one of the deadliest terror attacks in India, when 10 Pakistani terrorists of the Lashkar-e-Taiba attacked Mumbai and killed over 166 people on the 26th of November in 2008, Israel, India's long-standing and all-weather friend, has designated the Lashkar-e-Taiba a radical Islamist global terrorist organization. Remember, Israelis were also targeted in the 26/11 Mumbai terror attack. Specifically, an Israeli house, a Jewish Shabbat house, was targeted. UN-designated terrorist Hafiz Mohammed Saeed-led terrorist organization, the Lashkar-e-Taiba, was responsible for 26/11 attacks. Now, this decision comes amidst an ongoing war between Israel and Hamas that broke out on the 7th of October after Hamas attacked Israel quite like the 26/11 Mumbai terror attacks. But remember, there were 10 Pakistani terrorists in 26/11. There were close to 2,500 Hamas terrorists who attacked Israel on 7th of October.
The biggest terrorist strike on Indian soil in a quarter century. The wounds of 26/11 still fresh as the masterminds live free lives in Pakistan. But now, 15 years after 166 people were killed by 10 Pakistani terrorists, the state of Israel has designated Pakistan's Lashkar-e-Taiba a terrorist organization. 4 Israeli citizens, including Rabbi Gabriel Holzberg and his pregnant wife Rivka, were slaughtered on that day in 2008. their baby son Moshe surviving and going on to become a symbol of hope for both countries. Lashkar-e-Taiba is a deadly and reprehensible terrorist organization responsible for the murder of hundreds of Indian civilians as well as others. Its heinous actions on November 26, 2008 still reverberate in force through all peace-seeking nations and societies, said a statement by the Israeli government. Israel's designation of the Lashkar as a terrorist organization is heavy with symbolism, coming as it does while the Jewish state is embroiled in a historic war against the Hamas in the Gaza Strip. And while Israel's move against the Lashkar isn't at India's prompting, Israel is openly hoping for reciprocation from India.
Unfortunately, I see in Qatar, one of the biggest problems of Qatar is the fact that Al Jazeera is there for so many 20-odd years, poisoning more and more generations of Muslims around the world. In their Arabic language, they are really a tool of poisoning. A lot of the problems we have now and we will see in the future around the world are instigated in one way or another by Al Jazeera. So it's a big problem, but now you go to the people who have leverage. Turkey has, they host some leaders, so they have some leverage over them. Qatar is the same. You do business with the people you can, because it's very important to release the hostages.
The Indian Prime Minister was among the first to unambiguously describe the Hamas action of October the 7th as an act of terror, something widely appreciated in Israel as it fights a battle of narratives. The question now is, could India return the symbolic gesture, bite the bullet and ban Hamas? Bureau Report, India Today.
Let me bring in India Today's Shiv Arur and our Foreign Affairs Editor Geeta Mohan for more on the story. Shiv, the significance of this move and the timing a week before 15th year of the worst terror attack, one of the worst terror attacks on India, 26/11/2008.
Well, there's no doubt that Israel designating Lashkar-e-Taiba as a terrorist group is significant. It's very symbolic, but certain facts need to be put into context. Israel is doing this 15 years after 26/11. This despite the fact that 4 Israeli citizens, were killed by Lashkar terrorists on 26/11. The second fact is that Israel, at this point of time, embroiled as it is in a war in the Gaza Strip, is looking for as many entities of solidarity as possible. It sees India as a very close, terror in the war, very close ally in the war against terror. They see a lot of similarities, a lot of parallels as well. And therefore, Israel, which has already sort of initiated a campaign to convince India through its ambassador to, ban Hamas or proscribe Hamas as a terrorist organization, has gone ahead and done it as far as Lashkar-e-Taiba is concerned. Now, the Israeli government, very interestingly, has said this was not at the prompting of India, which is fair and which is reasonable, because India has never tried to do that with any other country. But as far as Israel is concerned, it seems that it is expecting reciprocation, and that's plain to see. When I spoke to the Israeli ambassador, Naor Gilon, he said that he'd opened that dialogue with the Indian government regarding this. And this came in the wake of a Hamas leader, addressing a political event in Kerala earlier as well. That had sent shockwaves through the political system in Israel, wondering how India, a country that is very close to Israel, especially on the issue of anti-terror, could have allowed such a thing. And therefore, I think Israel must have realized that 15 years after 26/11, an action of this kind would, reaffirm its commitment, reaffirm its, relationship with India, because Israel realizes and knows that, the Lashkar-e-Taiba, Pakistan, these are extremely emotive, and heavy meaning issues as far as India is concerned. So it's made that gesture. And even though it doesn't say so, I'm sure it's expecting that in return. What it will actually mean is a different story entirely. What does Israel gain by, how does Lashkar-e-Taiba get impacted with Israel banning it? How does Hamas get impacted by India banning it? Those are different conversations altogether, that lie in the realm of diplomacy, and politics. But I think this is about solidarity. This is about Israel seeking the solidarity of an important member of the international world order. And they're hoping that India will reciprocate.
That's an important point you make there, Shiv. Do democracies stand together in this war on radical Islamist terror that's represented by entities and organizations like Lashkar-e-Taiba, Jaish-e-Mohammed, Hizbul Mujahideen, Al-Qaeda, Indian Mujahideen in this part of the world, and of course Hamas, Hezbollah, the Houthi forces in the West Asian context. And let me take this now to our Foreign Affairs Editor Geeta Mohan joining us for more. Geeta, is Israel looking at a quid pro quo? As Shiv mentioned, it sent shockwaves across Israel and India when Hamas leaders were addressing a rally in Kerala. So will India reciprocate banning Hamas?
Well, that's in a move where Israel has proscribed and banned or termed Lashkar-e-Taiba a terrorist organization after 15 years of the 2008 attacks. Now, Israel certainly wants Hamas also be designated by India, but it has to go through the legal threshold. Does it? Do the legalities apply over here? Now, according to sources, there are a few things where the legal threshold that this does not really meet the legal threshold at this point in time. One is that Hamas has not directly attacked anybody or attacked India. And secondly, that it is still not a UN proscribed organization.
Yes.
In fact, if anything, Lashkar-e-Taiba has been proscribed or had been proscribed by the United Nations long ago, and was a proscribed organization or a terror organization, deemed a terror organization by countries such as Israel's own allies, the United States of America. Yet, the Israelis have only designated Lashkar-e-Taiba now. Having said that, this is a request by Israel, not just to India, but across the world to designate Hamas a terror organization. As of now, it doesn't seem like it's going to happen anytime soon.
Okay.
There are a lot of legalities involved, and India would not want to violate any of the legal standings or the parameters. And in those parameters, Hamas still cannot be termed or designated a terror organization. Having said that, this could very well be a political decision, and they would be looking at the extraordinary circumstances. So we'll have to wait and see whether that's going to happen or not. For now, the word that we're getting is that it'll still take time for India to look at Hamas and term it or designate it a terror organization.
No, like India moved the United Nations to have Lashkar-e-Taiba, Jaish-e-Mohammed, or individuals like Hafiz Mohammed Saeed and that Maulana of terror, Masood Azhar, designated. Perhaps Israel also needs to move on those lines and have the world, have democracies come together to target these representatives of radical Islamist terror. But Israel is in the line of fire for targeting mosques, for targeting schools, for targeting homes, for targeting hospitals. And I quickly want to cut across to Tel Aviv for the latest. Joining me now with more on this big story is Major David Baruch, a spokesperson for the Israeli Defense Forces. Major Baruch, many thanks for talking to India today. Gaza health authorities are accusing Israel of specifically targeting medical facilities. First, it was the Al-Rantisi hospital, then Al-Shifa hospital. Now, for example, the Indonesian hospital claiming that 12 people have been killed there. Are hospitals being specifically targeted by the Israeli Defense Forces? And if so, why?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be with you on this show. I have to tell you that this comes as no surprise that Hamas is acting out of areas like hospitals, mosques, schools, and it comes as no surprise to us because this is part of their way of acting. They're using civilians and civilian infrastructure as places to hide behind. And yes, they're using that hospital as well. And we've discovered Hamas positions underneath the hospital, and we're having to act there.
So let's specifically talk of hospitals. Questions have been raised about Israel's claims that the Al-Shifa hospital was a command and control center of the Hamas, because skeptics ask, sure, you claimed that some AK series assault rifles have been found, some ammunition pouches have been found, some grenades or RPGs or warlike stores have been found. But does that indicate that it was the command center of the Hamas?
Well, let's go back, first of all, with all the things that you just mentioned as well. I don't know too many hospitals in India which have weapons and explosives and IEDs and tunnel systems underneath their hospitals. Tunnel systems that are used for terrorists to get in and out without being seen. I don't know if that exists anywhere in India. It certainly doesn't exist in Israel. Apparently, the medical system in Gaza, I suppose, is somewhat different. Regarding command and control, we've also found part of the command and control is this tunnel system as well. Okay. We've put out all sorts of information over the last 2 days, video information, things that you can see regarding the equipment as well as the infrastructure that they've developed underneath this hospital.
So from hospitals, let's move to schools. Why are schools being targeted? The Al-Kuwait school, for example, is nothing sacrosanct, whether it's schools or mosques or hospitals or homes. Everyone in the line of Israeli fire. Is Israel's war plan actually to depopulate North Gaza and Gaza City and push civilians south of Wadi Gaza, south of Gaza River?
Well, this has been part of our directives right from the beginning as well. We're not interested. This is not a war against the civilian population in Gaza. This is a war against Hamas, in order that Hamas will not be able to do anything like this again, like they did on the 7th of October when they crossed our borders 45 days ago. And they came in and terrorized our population and took over 230 innocent civilians into Gaza as hostages. They kidnapped them. We're going after Hamas. And unfortunately, Hamas is part of the way they do things, goes after, go underground, and then they leave the civilians above ground in order to act as shields for them. They're using hospitals, as we just spoke about. They're using schools. We even showed footage of a scouts club where they were actually shooting rockets from that clubhouse. So yes, we're going after Hamas. We're certainly not going after the civilian population, which we've told time and time again, please move south to a safer area.
Okay.
And we've had some success with this over the last 2 weeks. And they have been starting to move, and a significant portion of that population has already moved down to the south.
Major David, before I let you go, since you mentioned hostages, what can you tell me about the release of hostages? What's the conversation like? Will hostages be released first and then a ceasefire, or first a ceasefire and then will hostages be released, and how soon?
There will be nobody happier than I to see any of the hostages released. Talking about a ceasefire, by the way, all this began on the 7th of October. On the 6th of October, there was a ceasefire, and on the next day, over 230 of our citizens were taken hostage. So it shouldn't have happened in the first place.
Okay.
I'll be very happy when the hostages are released. That's what Hamas should do. It's the decent thing to do. It's the humane thing to do. And under international law, what they've done isn't totally out against the law. And what we want to see is those hostages released. And that's all they need to do, is release these hostages. Okay. So they can do that any minute they want.
Well, will that happen in the next couple of hours? We'll track that story very closely. Major David, for joining me here on India Today, many thanks. That is all I have for you on this special broadcast. Many thanks for watching. Coming up next is Rajdeep Sardesai with Elections Unlocked. Stay with us.
You are watching India Today.
powered by Finest. Be sustainable change. A B&P Group company.
Get ready for an immersive journey into the heart of news, politics and insights that matter. Join India Today now on WhatsApp with the #1 election team as we gear up for the upcoming assembly elections. Do scan the QR code.
Join India Today now on WhatsApp. Follow these steps. Open WhatsApp on your phone. Check for a new updates tab. Select Find Channel and type India Today. After finding the channel, tap the Follow button.
The Indian OTT content has been making huge waves and finally roared at the global stage, and how? Veer Das has created history and won big at the International Emmy Awards 2023. In a momentous occasion for Indian entertainment, comedian and actor Veer Das has clinched an International Emmy Award for Veer Das Landing, marking a significant milestone in his illustrious career. He jointly received the award with Derry Girls Season 3 at the ceremony, highlighting Veer's comedy talent on the global stage and emphasizing his success in the comedy genre. Nominated alongside Derry Girls Season 3 from the United Kingdom, El Encardo from Argentina, and the French show La Flambe Season 2, Veer Das' stand-up special Landing made its mark in the competition.
Anything could happen tonight. I'm not so Indian that I would study to be a doctor. No, I'm Indian enough where I would never use a white doctor.
This was Veer Das' second nomination and his first victory in the Best Comedy category. Ekta Kapoor became the first Indian to win the International Emmy Directorate Award for significant contribution to the world of arts and entertainment. Ekta got emotional and said, "I'm bringing home an Emmy. This is for India."
This award is for you, India, and all the Indians here. We are few, but we're enough. This is for you, India. In your history, I find my stories. In your strength and your tenacity, I find my grit.
Joining me at the International Emmy Awards is Ekta Kapoor, who has just received an Emmy Award for her remarkable career and, of course, a contribution in the Indian television film industry. Ekta, many congratulations.
Thank you so much. I'm honored and elated.
We have finally brought the Emmys home.
This is for you, India. This is your Emmy.
What was that moment when you were walking up that stage, and what was your thought process during that time?
I just knew one thing, that I was going to go up on stage. If I look at the monitor, I'll get lost. So I kept the monitor, but I didn't look once, also the teleprompter, and I spoke from my heart.
And when you spoke, you literally made me also emotional.
See, we Indians, we've had to fight for our place in the sun. And finally we're getting it. So this is for my country. I humanized her on stage because I really feel all Indian women are shades of India.
You know, Ekta, you have now become the first Indian filmmaker and producer to win an Emmy Award. How does that feel, and what does that mean to you personally?
It's a huge responsibility. I'm hoping to take it forward in the right way, but at this present moment I'm overwhelmed, and I'm just waiting to take the Emmy home. Thank you so much.
Congratulations.
Make your media plan smarter with India Today Live TV on your connected devices. Amplify your brand with 100 million smart internet viewers. To advertise, mail us at sales@aajtak.com.
I feel like a Jaipur Maharaja. आप तो मेरे बॉडीगार्ड बन गए हैं. टाइगर जिंदा है. Nothing like an early morning